past week, Mayor Duggan delivered his 7th State of the City address. There was plenty in it to chew on, and let's do that this morning with the mayor of the city of Detroit, Mayor Mike Duggan. Mayor, thanks very much for coming back.
Thanks for having me, Devin.
Good to have you here. There's a lot that I want to get to. I guess I want to start with the thing that it felt to me after the speech was that I was answering most on Twitter, and that was with NoFault Reform.
Right.
You're going to start, you mentioned you're going to start holding meetings so that people understand how they can sort of harness this new ability that they have to tailor their own insurance. But I heard from a lot of people, a number of trial attorneys, personal injury attorneys, who believe that our system that we've set up, you said that night that if you have Medicare, you're probably in pretty good shape. You've got the kind of health care you need. There's still a lot of dispute about whether or not there's enough insurance to cover this, what has forever been duplicate insurance.
People of the state of Michigan have been ripped off on no fault for many years. And when Ohio and Indiana and Illinois and Wisconsin cost you $1,000 a year to insure your car, and in most of Michigan it's $2,500 and in Detroit it's $4,000, it's really hard to defend that system. I know your friends are doing that, but what Governor Whitmer, along with the Republican leader of the House, Lee Chatfield, and the Senate Majority Leader, Mike Shirkey, we actually had bipartisan cooperation. They did a good bill. Doesn't do everything we wanted, but it kicks in July 2nd. So a lot of people said, well, what happened to that no-fault bill? I haven't seen my reductions.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they phased it in. And the biggest thing that will happen July 2nd, and I'll be holding a series of forums where I'm going to invite people to bring their bills, and we'll talk it through, is this. If you were in any one of the other 49 states and you have health care, you work for WDIV and you have Blue Cross or HAP, you're on Medicare. In any one of the other 49 states, if you got in a car accident, you could rely on your health care to take care of you, just as if you fell off a ladder. The only state in America that says you can't rely on your health care, you have to buy it a second time with your car, has been Michigan.
As you know, the late Brooks Patterson, no friend generally of the kind of onerous restrictions that law implied, said that it's mind-boggling how quickly you can go through what you think is a lifetime benefit, and that instead of thinking of Michigan as being the one state that had the worst insurance in the country, we should have realized that we were the ones with the best.
So it's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Brooks Patterson was covered by his county health insurance. I mean, he would have been covered. What we're saying is that if you want to keep your $3,000 or $4,000 policy, you can. The governor's bill allows that. But if you want to be like the other 49 states, I mean, Devin, you've made it a choice on the level of health care. If you have a stroke tomorrow, you've got Blue Cross or Health Alliance plan. You could have bought an extra $100,000 a year policy to cover everything, but you have a choice. And what happens July 2nd is if you're on Medicare or you have health care coverage that covers it, you'll have a choice. Am I going to rely on the healthcare coverage for every other incident in my life, or do I want to buy second coverage of my car insurance? That's the choice you'll have July 2nd.
That, to me, is really, there's a level of responsibility that we're all going to have to assume here for what we choose as coverage. Let's move on. If there was one portion of your address that I think seemed to inspire any kind of anger or real blowback, it was about the tax assessment problem. We've got a number of lawsuits, as you know, against the city and the county. You said that night that yes, you were overtaxed, you were overassessed, but that money is not coming back, it's been spent. If I had robbed a bank and my defense was, look, yes, I did take the money, but I'm sorry, it's gone, I can't possibly pay it back, that probably wouldn't fly. Is there really no way for these folks to get any kind of recourse?
Again, it would fly under a statute of limitations. So, but let's just talk about what happened. I ran for mayor in 2013. In significant part because the people of the city were being overassessed. Yeah. I campaigned against it every day. It was well known that the city did not reduce those assessments, and people are acting like they discovered it in 2020. My first month in office, January 2014, I cut the rates 22%. I said, we're correcting the past inequities. There's not...
We didn't get the full reassessment of everybody's property till 2017.
That was the businesses that got done in 2017. This city as a whole was at market in 2014. Doesn't mean every single house was, but with that 22% cut my first month in office, the city as a whole was at market. But what the law says is each year that goes by, there's an appeal process, and the year closes. Because, as I said at the State of the City speech, you can't go back to the Detroit Public Schools and say, hey, the money you paid the teachers in 2010 was overassessed, I want it back, which doesn't allow you to go backwards. So what I did instead was I went to Lansing, I got payment plans, we got money from Quicken to offer subsidies, we've got programs where people bought back. We've cut the foreclosures for 6 years. In this city, we've cut the foreclosures from 5,000 to 300. I've worked it every single day for 6 years to undo the damage. But I have no way of going back to 2011 and deal with what was overassessed then. I ran for mayor to stop it, and I have stopped it.
I mentioned that you talked a lot about equity that night in creating this Detroit Equity Council. There was a really, I think, telling study from, I think it was last year. 80% of black business owners in Detroit said that they didn't feel like they were a part of what was going on, of the city's resurgence, and trying to reconnect them with that. But I guess the question is that a message management problem, that they don't feel a part of it, or is it real and they aren't a part of it?
Well, as I showed last at the speech, just in one stretch of Livernois, in 1 year, 16 businesses have opened, 15 of them black-owned businesses. And so there's no question in this country there are huge obstacles for people of color starting businesses, including lack of family wealth to get started in the business, to discrimination in loans right down the line. And so I've taken this issue on. And things like Motor City Match, where we've now opened more than 100 businesses with these quarterly competitions, almost 80% of them entrepreneurs of color. I went to Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan, and along with Kellogg Foundation, he opened this Entrepreneur of Color Loan Fund, $18 million in loans. Another 75 businesses have expanded. It is hard work to reverse years of barriers. But in the city of Detroit, it's a story that I got to say, frankly, the media doesn't cover very well. There are a whole lot of black entrepreneurs driving the city of Detroit's recovery. I was just with a whole group of them yesterday at a fair at Wayne County Community College, and a bunch of them came to me and said, thank you for mentioning me, and a whole bunch came up and said, can I be in your speech next year? I think we need to do more to recognize what's being accomplished.
Part of it is the message then. The marijuana conversation is really interesting to me. Detroit is eventually going to opt in. We've got lawsuits right now from people who are upset with how slowly Detroit is moving into this recreational space, but you kind of openly admitted that you see all these suburban communities that are going to opt out, and we're going to be back to that model that many people have talked about over the years, where Detroit's going to be where they go for their vice and then they head home with it. So
61% of the people of the city voted in November 2018 to legalize marijuana. I feel, as the elected mayor, this wasn't an issue I was looking to get into, but I have a responsibility to follow that. The question is, who has a seat at the table? Who owns the companies? And we were on a trend that 90% of the marijuana retail stores in Detroit would be opened by people outside the city, which, you're right, means people could come from outside to buy it, and then the profits. And so James Tate has just shown tremendous leadership on this, and I'm in agreement with him. We should opt in. But I want to opt in a way that says we'll welcome investment from the outside, but 1 out of every 2 licenses we issued has to be owned by a bona fide Detroiter. And I've got a fair amount of feedback, and overwhelmingly, even some of the outside investors say, you know, you're right. We need to be doing more to make sure that Detroiters get a fair chance. But you got to be intentional. If we sit by and do nothing, the people who lined up the property, the people who lined up the supply of marijuana, were almost entirely, in many cases, national chains that have moved from Colorado to California and the like. If we didn't act, you would have national organizations taking over the distribution and leaving Detroiters out.
And it's clearly going to be obviously very lucrative for someone. There was another criticism that I saw, that you didn't spend near enough time talking about crime in Detroit, that it has not, we still see way too many menacing crimes and not enough positive direction on fixing this problem that's vexed us forever.
If WDIV had given me 90 minutes instead of 60 minutes, I would have talked about crime, I would have talked about the arts, I would have talked about water. And so you end up making decisions on what you're trying to do in the amount of time you have. But Chief Craig and the Detroit Police Department, I think, are doing a great job. We got great partnerships with the U.S. Attorney in Wayne County. I would say the single biggest thing we need right now are more officers in patrol cars, slowing down speeders, making traffic stops, and we've got to hire 400 officers in the next year. And I talked in detail about how we do that, and I will talk to you about crime for as long as you like.
You did talk about the 400. That's a big ask. Last thing I wanted to get to before we got to wrap it up. And you've been a little coy about how you feel about this, but as a former prosecutor and as a former mayor, I think you're uniquely positioned to talk about whether or not Kwame Kilpatrick's sentence should be commuted by the president or get granted clemency by the president.
I am not going to get myself in the middle of it because I do not have a good relationship with President Trump, and my expressing my opinion is not going to matter. But I've said this before. I've known Kwame Kilpatrick when he was at Cass in high school. He studied for law school in the office next to me when his father was working there. His kids would play in my office after he was done teaching at school, and I was with him shortly before
but you also
he resigned.
uniquely know what he cost the city.
And so I don't have a way of being objective. I just have very deep feelings toward him and the talent that he has. And I think that talent could do a lot of good in this world, and I hope he gets a chance to use it. But I don't want to potentially jeopardize anything that's going by commenting specifically. But he's somebody that I've watched grow up, and I have strong feelings for him.
Mayor Duggan, it's always good to have you on the program. Really appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you, Devin.
We'll be back with more. We'll talk more about Kwame Kilpatrick on Flashpoint, a Local 4 right after this.